If you want to learn how to create your own custom playing cards like the ones that you see on Etsy, I can show you how in Adobe Illustrator to streamline your process and create thousands of unique designs on a simple deck of cards. If you want to check out some inspiration before we get started for custom card ideas, you can use my Etsy link in the description box below. Let's go ahead and get into Adobe Illustrator and create a template for our custom cards. The first thing that I did is I downloaded the template that the printer provides. The next thing that I'm going to do is reduce the opacity of the layer that is a guide layer. I'm going to turn off all the text. Only do so once you've read through the text, but I'm just going to turn it off so I've just got the outline that I am using for the guide. I lock these layers so that I don't accidentally shift or move anything in the template. Next, I'm going to move the top layer to the bottom, and this will be my suits layer. The next thing, I'm just going to organize my layers. So I want a suits layer and I want a design layer. So the suit layer will have things like the, obviously the suits of the cards and the text for the card, ace through to king, and the design layer will be the image layer basically. Next, I'm going to type out the suits, so the diamond symbol, the heart, the clubs, the spade, and I'm going to scroll through the font until I find one that is appropriate for the design that I want. And here I'm going to expand the object, but I realized after I'd already expanded them that there was really no need to expand when I can just use appearances, which I will do for the numbers in a little bit. But there are many ways to do things, so I'm just showing you two ways, I guess. Next, I change the diamond and the heart to red. Initially, I just leave the text as black in the beginning, but I do change it to red later on towards the end. Now I'm going ahead and I'm offsetting the path. I have a short key to O, but you can find it in the menu. It is Object, Path, Offset path. The template I got was set to inches, and I'm Australian, so I wanted to change that to millimeters, as inches just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so now I'm just offsetting the path around the shapes so that I can create a border. I'm going to create a white border on all of my symbols and my text. And again, you can do this as objects or you can do it as text. I will show you how to do it for text in appearances in a little bit. Here I create the widest of the text, being number 10, as it is 2 digits as opposed to singular digit or a letter. I'm using the 10 as I think it will be the widest and the best one to gauge for design. Here I have opened the appearance panel to add the white outline. First, I add 2 solid layers to the text by selecting the fill layer and selecting the bottom solid fill layer. I then add an effects to the layer, which is path, outline path, and adjust it to match with the shapes. Next, I just change the color to white, and I'm going to adjust the size of my designs to fit the template of the cards. I use the transform approach, but you can also just hold down shift and resize by dragging from the corners. Here I'm adding a rectangle that I will use as a clipping mask for images, but for now I'm using it so that I can see the white outline to place the numbers and the suits in the corners of the cards. I'm just grouping these shapes together so that when I move them, they will move as one instead of individual shapes. And here I realize that the outline for the 10 is much too big for the design. And this would be avoided if I kept the shapes as text, as I could have done them all in the same size and outline, and I wouldn't have to adjust it like I'm doing here. I then realized that the shapes are just a little bit bigger than I am wanting, so I'm using the transform method again to adjust the scale. This way I can adjust the others with the exact same adjustment once I have decided which scale down that I prefer. I'm going to add a frame around the artboard so that I can horizontal and vertical align the frame. And then when I flip the design around, I'll keep the design aligned on the card when flipped in the opposite corner. Here I lock the other two layers so that I select only the frame and the design that I'm going to duplicate and rotate. So press Command or Control C, Command Control V, and then I rotate it 180. And using the Properties panel, I align the duplicate center, both horizontal and vertical. I duplicate the artboards so that I have the same position on each card for the designs. I rename the artboards just to help me with organization. Now I just align the other symbols and remove the placeholder symbol to complete the design. After this, it's time to add the image placeholders. I'm going to lock the suits layer and unlock the design layer. I'm going to File, Place, and then I'm going to select 4 images as my placeholders. After I've inserted them onto the board, I then scale them down and align them to the artboards. Now using the layers panel, I'm going to select the rectangles that I'm using as clipping masks and dragging them above the images. Next, I select a rectangle and the corresponding image, and then using the Properties panel, I'm going to select Make Clipping Mask, and I'm going to repeat that for the remaining images and rectangles until all the cards have just the design and no overhang over the outline of the artboard. Alright, so now we're up to importing the variable datas to change the background image for the different cards and their suits. So first things, we're going to need a data set. So I've got card ID here, and we've got A through to K, which is 13, so 1 through to 13, and then you would have the individual images. So what I would do here, if I was doing this for, say, customers, I would simply go ahead and create individual folders and have the customers put their photos into them. If they don't care for the order or what card is attached to which image, then no worries. Otherwise, I would get them to number or rename the file 1 through to 13, 13 being king, ace being 1, ace 1, ace 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king, so that they all stay in order. Then you can just simply go Control All, and you can then copy as path. And then once you've done that, you would just go, if it was I was just in the clubs, so you would go 1 to 13 here, and you would just paste file path. And you would do that for each folder. Once you've got them in here like that, all you need to do is go ahead and download as comma separated values. Now that you've got it downloaded, you come back into Illustrator and you select import. And you're just going to import that CSV file that we just downloaded. Okay, so you've got card IDs, you've got the images for the hearts, diamonds, spades, and clubs. And so for the numbers, you're just going to select card ID and select the numbers, which I did here in layers. So I went layers and I clicked on the first one. I shift and held down shift to click on the last one, selecting all of the numbers. Make sure that that one's highlight before you press Make Text Dynamic. Okay, and so they're all now in there under the card ID. And then for hearts, you would be selecting the design. So up here in the layers, and you would look for whichever one is your hearts, which is this one, the golden one, make it dynamic, and then you would do diamonds, which is the green one. So in my layers, link file, spades is the blue one, so I'm just going to link that one, and then finally clubs, which is the red one over here. I'm going to click on that. And so once you've got them all linked, you can then select the data set. So ACE, and so here's my examples. We've got a family portrait at the beach style type thing. I've got 2 card designs. Okay, 3, we've got breakfast. So you could do a whole set of cards revolving around food and watercolor images if you chose to. 4, my data set, I am using a wedding photo style example. You can do travel, and you could do illustrated, whatever. Okay, and back to the beginning. So they're the examples that I had, but as you can see, you would have your own. These are just examples of what you could do with the background image. And then of course, you've still got the guide here that you can see. That would then be the actual card once it is cut out from the die cut. So if you needed to, you will go through and change any of them if they're not quite sitting right, depending on the images that you have. And then of course the export, save as individual images and upload them to your print on demand service. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.